Sometimes in life, you don't just get a holiday. Sometimes fate leads us down paths where returning is a privilege only the lucky ones possess. There were 5 friends who lived in the city and studied in college. They had a 15-day break for holidays. Because of these holidays, they planned a trip together. The 5 of them were Aman, Rohan, Vishal, and 2 girls, Kavya and Deepika. The 3 boys and 2 girls set out on their trip. They headed toward a dense forest about which they had already heard many scary stories. On the way to that forest, they passed a small village named Kalvanpur. This village was located just before the dense forest. When they reached the village, they stopped for a while. There was a tea stall where an old woman made tea. Everyone called her Budi Ma, Old Mother. Budi Ma gave them tea and asked, "Where are you going, children?" They told her the name of the forest, Kalvan Jungle. As soon as Budi Ma heard the name of the forest, she got scared and said, "Don't go there. That jungle spares no one. It won't spare you either." Hearing this, the 5 friends thought for a moment, then laughed it off, saying, "We aren't afraid of any ghosts." And they proceeded toward the jungle. Roaming around, it became night. Suddenly, in the middle of the forest, they saw a massive palace. But the truth was, that palace wasn't even there. It had been demolished by the government years ago. But to the 5 of them, the palace appeared clearly. They discussed it and decided to stay there for the night. They went inside the palace. When they went deep inside, the main door of the palace locked itself automatically, but they didn't realize it. They went inside saying, "The palace is very beautiful." The surprising thing was that the palace was perfectly clean. There were lights everywhere. Everything seemed fine, but no one paid attention to this oddity. They took out the food they brought from their car and ate there. After eating, they chatted with each other. While chatting, it turned 1:13 a.m. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the palace. Sounds of crying came from somewhere. Footsteps were heard elsewhere. After a while, everything suddenly went silent. Everyone got scared and tried to run from the palace, but all the doors and windows were locked. They thought they should just survive the night and leave in the morning. They all sat in the hall. Suddenly, they all fell asleep and had the exact same dream. In the dream, a voice said, "If you leave here between 3:47 a.m. and 3:57 a.m., you will survive. Otherwise, you will be trapped here forever." Terrified, they all woke up at the same time. They asked each other, "Did you see that time in your dream too?" Everyone said yes. They checked the clock. It was 3:40 a.m. They waited for 3:47 a.m. As soon as the clock struck 3:47 a.m., all the doors and windows opened on their own. They quickly gathered their things, ran out, sat in the car, took a deep breath, and drove away fast. While fleeing, they reached Budi Ma's tea stall again and stopped the car. Budi Ma was sleeping in the stall, which was also her home. They told her the whole story about seeing the palace. Hearing this, Budi Ma said, "That palace was torn down and removed 12 years ago." Hearing this, they got even more scared. It meant the palace they stayed in didn't even exist. They said, "Let's get out of here fast." They drove all night, but they kept coming back to the same tea stall repeatedly. Finally, somehow, morning came, and they reached the same village. There, they met an elderly man, Baba. They told Baba the whole story. Hearing this, the Baba said, "Neither does that palace exist anymore, nor does that tea stall. That Budi Ma died 3 years ago." Hearing this, they were terrified. They went straight to their hostel to rest. Night fell, and they went to sleep. Now, every day in their dreams, they see the same palace and the same tea stall. Whenever they wake up from fear, they find themselves inside that palace. This happened to them 3 times. They sleep in the hostel and wake up in the palace. And then, in the hostel and wake up in the palace. And then, they died. They slept and simply never woke up again. That is why roaming everywhere isn't always necessary, and not everything is real. Sometimes our own eyes deceive us. So, be careful. Goodbye. See you with the next real horror story.